Hello, one and all, and welcome to Creative Spark, my interview show where I talk to cool people about the cool things that they do. With me today is a man who has a truly cutting insight into the way that sneak attack works, Kevin from No Dice Dnd.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me, man.
No,
Appreciate it.
it's my pleasure. How are you?
Good. I can't complain. Just got married, so smooth sailing from here, having a good time.
Congrats.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. How you
Um,
doing? How you holding up, brother?
yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah,
Just existing perpetually within
yeah,
capitalism, doing my best.
yeah. Absolutely. That's the way to do it. That's what I think we're all trying to do.
Yeah, just like I'll take scraping by. That'll do.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, this
Surviving.
is a dark start.
Yeah.
I am good. Um, let's start at the beginning, basically. So, how did you choose the name for your channel?
No Dice. So no Dice is not even the first YouTube channel I've done. So like I've had some
Okay.
iterations of trying different things, and I just wanted something sort of on brand, and we just threw a bunch of stuff out there. And since I was originally going to go for like a crafting channel, that
Hmm.
was like the intent for the thing. But I kind of switched over to doing more comedy centric things. I thought No Dice was a good you know tongue in cheek, like
Hmm.
No Dice is saying no to the players, and No
Yeah.
Dice of like, so it's just a thing. And my wife's the one who comes up with all of the good nicknames. So she gave me a list and I took No Dice. I was like, that's the best one. We had a bunch of so many bad names to get through. And then No Dice was like, this is fine. Who's going to actually care when it comes down to it? But
Fair.
yeah.
So you were going to do a crafting channel, you
Yeah.
said.
So yeah, like to give you some insight on it. So like when the pandemic started,
Mhm.
I started a wood carving channel, like with hand tools, and I did wood carving because I wanted something that was outside of the house and not at my computer when we were like all isolated. And
Yeah.
so I wanted something that I could go like outside and do something and be engaged with. And that was a lot of fun. And then I slowly got into like bigger and bigger projects. And I realize now with like more knowledge about the algorithm that I kind of screwed myself if I set up an audience with like
Mm.
hand carving stuff, and then I slowly went to like doing, and it was like almost like ASMR centric, where it's
Yeah.
just like working. I didn't talk. I just like put the video together, and I got lucky. I had one video go viral. It got like 1 million views, and I
Wow.
was just like, oh, this is crazy. But then I started doing a lot of comedy. Like I made a life size Minecraft Steve out of like 1,700 wooden blocks. Like I literally tried to make like real life pixel art,
Oh wow.
and I made this big long comedy video, which took me like 2.5 months to build. And it got no views because most of my audience who got the viral from the ASMR thing were non-English speakers. So
Ah.
then the algorithm was like, this is a bad video. And also, I'm still getting better, so maybe it was just a bad video. I'm not saying that I also am just making good stuff, but so I went there and I was doing that, and I just wasn't getting the viewership I thought I should be getting. So I thought,
Mm.
why don't I go niche down to like a group who of a thing that I do, because I've been playing D&D for like
Mm.
15 years, maybe something like that. And so I was like, oh, it'd be fun to be able to make some crafts for like the people I play with and
Mm.
for my games. And so I started thinking about it in that context. And I was like, so to start off, I should start making some shorts. I've seen that's doing really well for people. And then I was like, because I wanted the comedy end of things as
Mm.
well as not just the making stuff. And I started doing those, and I was like, oh, these are getting received pretty well. And they're so much easier to make. I can make a short in a day versus
Yeah.
like 3 months of like intensive, like, and then editing forever.
Yeah.
And so then I just started doing that, and they started taking off, and I was like, I mean, this is the path of least resistance. But I think I'm getting to the point where I want to start. I'm getting the itch to start making stuff. Like I've gotten to electronics recently. Like, so now I can start making things to torture my players with and make like really crazy puzzles. And the intent was crafting, did comedy, and now I'm going to try and meld the two, and we're going to see how it goes. I literally have no clue what I'm doing. So hopefully, it's not a disaster, but we're going to try it. I think it's good to keep on trying to shift things up, or at
Mm.
least I need it.
I mean, that's incredibly unique, if nothing
Oh,
else.
yeah. I mean, it's a crazy niche, this is my worry, right? Like, there's D&D
Is
players who
that
like,
too niche?
yeah, D&D robotics. Is that like, people going to be into that? I don't know. It seems, but I don't know if you've had this experience at all. I mean, interviews are fun. Like, I feel like
Mm.
that's you start a good spot, but I feel like there's like this dynamic I'm keeping in my head that I've been working through a lot recently with this idea of like, you want to make something that is like successful. It's going to hit a
Mm.
large viewership. be monetizable, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's like that element. You're like working towards that goal. And then you're working towards this other goal of like, I want to make something that's like feeds the creative soul. That's not just
Mm,
like putting something out over and over again and feels
yeah.
like repetitive and not there's no growth. And then there's also this like third element that I realized is like I want to enjoy the day-to-day element of doing the work.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes there's creative projects that are fun that are just gut wrenching and
Yes.
taxing. So it's like I've had a struggle of trying to balance that like those three scales of this will be successful, but I'm don't feel creative, but it's easy to do.
Mm,
And I'm trying to find out like how do I maximize like just create successful enough to still have fill the creative soul and still like enjoy my day to day, So it's been a balance. And again, as I said, I have no clue what I'm doing, man.
mm.
We're
I don't
just
think anyone
skating through
does.
this. Yeah.
I don't,
Just
yeah.
uh,
I think there are people on YouTube who do. Like when I chatted with Pointy Hat,
mm,
um, he's incredibly like, this did not do well. I am not doing this again. That
yeah.
is dead to me now. And
Yeah.
it's really fascinating to talk to creators who are like that because I think there's a natural inclination to assume that people who are doing creative jobs, like stuff on YouTube and stuff, are
Mhm.
like also like artsy, hippie about it. And that's just not the case at all most of the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
Um,
It,
I do think like doing like I mean if your aim is to create these contraptions for your D&D table and then show off what they do and how you did that, I mean that's incredibly cool if nothing else.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the other element that I've kind of been thinking about is like, will I be happy with it regardless of if it does well?
Mm,
And I'm trying to keep that in mind because again, there's a balance of like this is like a job, but not really. Like I
yeah,
feel like it doesn't really pay well enough until you get to a point where you're like you really hit your stride.
yeah,
And so I s- I still have my normal job. I still have to do it day to day. So I also don't want to go home and then like slog through stuff. So I'm
yeah.
also just trying to think of it as like, well, what am I going to enjoy regardless of what happens? It
Mm,
still is like a hobby in a way. Um, and that's I think been a mental health because I've had moments of burnout where I'm like, oh, just because it's hard. You work a full week of a work and then you come home and you do all these videos and you're
yep,
trying to be up and you're like, I just want to, play some video games and not smile and just like look dead into a screen. Like I
yeah.
don't want to have to be
The
a
classics.
performer. Yeah, yeah, right. Just zone out. But yeah, so I don't even remember what the original question is. I'm sorry if I went on a way far
It's
tangent, but yeah, yeah.
perfectly fine. Like 95% of the people I interview seem to have ADHD, so I wouldn't worry
Mm,
about it too much. I also have
yeah,
ADHD,
good.
so it's kind of a miracle we get to the end of interviews on any
Right.
kind of topic.
Yeah, yeah. Just bouncing around.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It was just about whether or not you'd be showing off the robotics on like the
Oh
robotic
yeah.
stuff and the computing stuff that
Well,
you'd be doing like on the
and we'll
channel.
see. There, I did to kind of talk on that. Like again, this might be too insider baseball. I don't know if people actually care about this, but like the idea of like I heard someone talking about this Vsauce. He's like a science YouTuber, if you
Hmm.
know who he is, and he says YouTube channels is a bad name. They should be called YouTube shows because like
Mm,
your audience only wants one thing.
yes.
Like if so you should just make a second channel, connect the people who are your audience and the ones who like you enough will follow to the next
Yes.
show. But like and so there's also a chance that maybe I just keep doing my D&D comedy stuff, kind of do some live streams there, and then also do just like a robotics on the side so I can have this like separate show if you're also interested in it, like that kind of thing and break it up. But again, that's the algorithm part where you're like, I don't have any real feedback on that. I have to just
Yes.
guess, and that's why YouTube can be tough.
100%. Especially
Yeah.
because like numbers go up, you feel good. Numbers don't go up, you're like, well, obviously I'm terrible at everything. You shouldn't be
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
So
Which is
yeah.
it's good. I've gotten better at separating that feeling of like number up means something. It's like
Yes.
neat. Number bad. It's like neat. Like my favorite videos have done the worst numbers, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. That's the way it goes.
Yep.
Embrace it.
I'm sure there is rhyme and reason to it somewhere, but like it doesn't feel like it.
Oh no, yeah, yeah, right.
um, how did you end up landing on the comedy skits as like those are obviously the main focus of your shorts, but not the main
Mhm.
focus of your longs. I know they're not called longs.
No, no, longs is perfect. I mean, I don't know what else people call it. Longs is great. That's literally what I have them in my files as.
Yep.
So we're on the
Same.
same page.
Cool.
So how did I end up on the shorts? Is that what
Yeah,
or
how did
like
you end up
comedy
on
shorts?
comedy as the focus of the shorts? Yeah.
I feel like I'm a goofy guy. Like I like to just do a lot of bits. And that's like originally, I think, like when I was doing my crafting videos, I feel
Mm,
like the crafting videos was to make a thing, but then the video itself was for me to be like have an outlet for comedy.
mm.
Um, like, yeah, I've just always been into comedy. I used to do stand up a little bit,
Okay, cool.
and did comedy shorts with my friends like way back in high school, and I just like trying to write something that will make someone laugh. Like
Mm,
most of the time, I'm just I walk into the room, I pretend to be something to make my wife laugh, whatever's gonna like freak her out, you know. And so yeah, I think it's just I prefer the comedy. The feeling I got of being on set and just doing jokes is a lot more fun than like trying to be serious and tell the camera what's going on. And I think
yeah.
it's more, especially D&D is a weird space. I think
Mm,
because um, most people aren't interested in watching other like live plays. I think a
yeah.
lot of people do, but I think that's a small piece of the market. Most people just like want to play D&D, but they can't right now, so they
Yes.
have to wait 2 weeks. So they're just looking for the feeling of like, oh yeah. So like the comedy thing is requires no energy from them. They just get to just laugh. So from I think that was like why I started that and why I think it did well. You know,
Mm,
but yeah, I don't know, man. Why do comedy? Because people laugh and it's a good time. You know, it's easy.
makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And then for your longs, you do more classic kind of tips videos.
Yeah, which I think I'm gonna. A lot of it has been experimenting.
Mm,
Again, I don't know what I'm doing. So I started with the shorts. I just started doing them, and they got reception. I was like, great. And I was like, well, where do I go from here? I could do longer form comedy videos, um, but and I've thought about doing that as well.
mm,
But I was like, I want to experiment and see what other kind of like things if I like doing it. And I
mhm.
found I don't know if I exactly like doing the long form advice videos because I think I think it's my core principle of D&D is that every game is so individualistic
Yes.
that it's really hard to be like, now you should be doing this. And if you play any differently, don't listen to anything I'm saying. Like my first advice, and I think I did it in most of like the long form videos, was just be like, don't listen to this. If you don't like this, I'm
That's
wrong.
fine.
Like if
That's
you have a
okay.
better idea, do it. And
Yeah.
uh that's like my philosophy because I'm even gotten to the point where I'm like even further and further away from like the rule book even
Mm,
mattering. Like I just am a lot of the time just asking for a generalized dice roll or like I love using percentile dice to like you know
mm,
do the randomness and it's just gotten less rule heavy, more like specific to my group,
yeah.
and so that's hard to give advice on. And there's also a ton of phenomenal creators who are also doing that. So it's just like throwing my hat into an already filled ring of all hats, pointy hats,
Yep.
even and, they're doing great videos. And so I realized that
100%.
I don't think I like as much reading off a teleprompter into a camera about advice. Like I think I have a lot of fun ideas that would be helpful, but
Mm.
I don't know if it's worth it. I'm getting the engagement out of it that's like fun for me as well.
There has to be a balance, right?
Yeah,
Like it can be
exactly.
something you enjoy, but that yeah, it's like you said, it's that like 3 scale problem basically where you're like,
Yeah.
no, it needs to hit like a specific level, or it's yeah. That makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. It
Yeah,
is
yeah.
tough.
It's tough. Yeah, again, I mean, yeah. The number of times, oh man, you should see the outtakes of me doing those videos of like there's a video of Hank Green,
Mm,
a YouTuber, right? And he's got a video where he shows him making a video without cutting. Like the whole of him reading off a
right.
script, kind of like going through the iterations. And I was like, I feel so seen right now. Like the fact that this guy, because he starts speaking, he's like, now the problem with what is it? And they like he keeps like breaking and like
Yeah.
looking away because you're just like trying to be more than you are. You're trying to
Yep.
be a personality, like a heightened version of yourself, and then you're also trying to remember this thing and convey it. And it's just a disgusting process.
It's a
Like it's
weird
just so
process.
yeah, it's very weird. Yeah, disgusting is not the right word, but yeah, very bizarre. And
I
you're just
mean,
like, this is
yeah, yeah.
you know,
I don't know that disgusting isn't the right word because it is just like, especially when you edit your own videos.
oh, and that is exactly right. Seeing yourself mess up like 20 times and be like, man, I can't do anything. Like I feel like not a human being who can't say a full sentence
Yeah.
effectively. And it's great. So that's why the comedy's easier because I get to just be more spur of the moment, random,
Mm,
and just like improv instead of 100% trying to remember something. And that feels just more organic and natural. And there's talented actors out there. I'm just not one of them. Yeah, and that's that's the way it
I
is.
I think your comedy skits are fantastic. I'm a huge
Oh,
fan of the as the characters progress
hmm.
ones. Those are like I said, I made the sneak attack one because that's
Oh,
my favorite one by
yeah.
far.
Thanks, man.
Especially like DMing and also playing
Oh yeah.
fairly regularly, like 2 to 3 times a week somehow.
Oh man. Oh dude, you're killing it. That's
I
great.
the weirdest thing is two of the players are in China and three of us have kids, so I do not know
Wow.
how we managed to do it. I think one of us must have like done a blood sacrifice at some point. That's the only viable way to find that. But yeah,
I mean, that's the dream commitment right there. Like to get that many people who, regardless of what's
that's
going on, are still
wild.
down to play. That's awesome.
It's
I mean,
yeah.
you must be doing something right. Are you DMing in that?
I'm DMing one of the 3 sessions at the moment.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, your games must be great. That's why everybody keeps showing up. That's awesome.
We're lucky that 4 of the 5 of us in the core group like DMing as well. So if any of us
Oh.
is like, I'm a bit burned out, the other ones are like, so I wanted to talk to you in the specific way, which is
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
DMing
Right.
is.
Yeah. The best. I mean, you're right. It is. It's just torturing people, which is it's so good.
So
Just
normal.
figuring out what they want and just not letting them have it.
Or giving it to them at a price.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
That's a
That's
whole other thing.
yeah.
Um, uh, so are you on a bit of a break at the moment from like the content creation stuff? Is that just burnout related? If you don't
No,
mind me asking.
it's not burnout related exactly. It's a part of it is real life
Mhm.
took over. So again, like planning for a wedding and then like doing all the things that need to get finished while also working a lot. Since I freelance,
Mhm.
I have like a variable work schedule, and sometimes I'm really slammed and I just don't have time, and sometimes I have like a couple weeks off and I get to just like burn through a bunch of
Yeah.
videos. So yeah, right now it's just that I haven't had the time and I don't want to burn out. And there was this phase where I had kind of like slowed down a little bit. And I think it's what's hard about like talking about the what's successful, what you want to do,
Mhm.
and like the what's the creative part. I feel like there's an element where I've hit a lot of like the genuine jokes that have felt over the
Mm.
years, and now I'm like looking for jokes instead of like
Right.
this is my experience. There's only so many like specific D&D related
Yeah.
experiences. And what's tough, and I know they would probably still do fine if I stuck with it, but like a lot of the videos that are not like almost meme related, where
Mm.
it's like the leveling up is a good way to be like,
Yeah.
here's the book. We've all experienced this like generalized player, but the ones that are more like some of my favorite videos are they're called mini moments, and they're
Mhm.
like where I put my eyes and mouth on a miniature, and it just looks horrific. And they have like a an interaction like you would in a D&D game,
Yeah.
and they're just like the NPCs on the side while like the adventurers are doing something else, but they're just seeing the chaos and be like, what the hell's going on? So they're like that. And those are my favorite ones, but those are just generalized comedy, and they
Mhm.
do way worse because they're not just like hitting the super broad audience
Right.
of
Specific D&D meme.
right.
Right.
So that in a way, I've kind of hit this thing where it's like, I don't know if I'm interested. I don't know if I'm feeding my creative soul enough to want to do the like. I've hit all my generalized D&D memes. I'm glad they're out there. I'm really glad how well they did,
Mm.
and so now I'm just trying to figure out where I go forward from here. I have like maybe 40 different like scripts like written half
Mhm.
written out that I just have to go through and like finish and clean up. I just haven't had the time to do so. So again, that's where I want to expand to be able to do some other things so I can still do the comedy stuff, but
Yeah.
still feed, Um, so yeah, it's I've been on a hiatus just because life's gotten in the way, and this is unfortunately not my full time job. Hopefully one day, but right now it's just you know, it's just for fun. It's just
Yeah.
share with people and get a community kind of thing.
Is your aim to make this full time?
I go back and forth. I think there is an aim to do that. If I can find that slider balance, right? If I can
Mm.
find that thing, because there's easier ways to make money. Like I think a lot of people think about YouTube as like what a easy way.
Yeah.
Like if you make it, you're just having fun the entire time, and you're like, no, it's a
Well
ton
done.
of work. Yeah, yeah. I stopped myself. I'm sorry if I've already sworn. We talked about this
No,
beforehand.
you did really well. That was perfect.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. I put it in there. Stopped. Yeah. Uh, it's a ton of work, right?
Mhm.
Like, especially if you don't have you're not hiring other people to split
Yes.
the work up, which helps a lot because you have to film. You have to be the person thinking about where the camera is, and not to complain. It's making videos. It's just whatever. But on longer videos, you have to edit out for hours. You have to
Yep.
film for a while. You have to write something out, and you have to try and do it at the consistency that is required to
Yep.
maintain an audience. And yeah, that's a lot of work. So if it's not like the most fun thing, there's easier ways for me, more fun ways. So I'd rather just make it something that I get to just enjoy purely.
Mm.
But if I can find that balance where I'm just like I'm enjoying it a lot and still the work doesn't make me after a while be like I need a break,
Yeah.
then yeah, I would love to make it full time. I mean, have you as a journalist, are you interested in also making this full time?
I think for me, certainly at the moment, this is a thing I'm doing just in case everything explodes and I somehow monetize it.
Hmm.
And it's not to say that I don't enjoy this, because I do. This is a wonderful, like, I've properly, like you say, like my
Yeah.
creative soul is
Mhm.
fully being fulfilled by doing my silly D&D short tips. And
Yeah.
I've got, as of the time of recording this, I've got my first longer video going up, but it's like a voice acting
Nice.
thing, because I like doing silly voices, because I've got
Yeah.
kids.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And it just comes part and parcel, right?
Right.
They are who I practice all of my silly D&D voices on. So my
Oh,
wife will
I have,
walk in.
not to interrupt, but I have a very serious question.
Yes.
The classic thing for Americans, right, is that we do a lot of British accents.
Yes.
Do you do an American accent in your D&D game?
So I can do an American accent, and I don't think it's that bad. It kind of it depends who I talk to, really. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of mimicking yours at the moment,
Yeah, it's
vaguely,
great.
but I can
You're doing
also
awesome.
do a more like classic Texas drawl and just kind of really oversell
Yeah.
it.
Oh, yeah.
So I got
That's
a
so good.
couple.
So like when you go to a random bar, is it like your go-to like throwaway voice is just because mine is like if I needed just a random character, it's like this guy's gonna be some form of British. You
Do
know
you know
what I
what?
mean?
That seems to be the thing. So when I talk to, I'm fully name dropping a lot of the other things, but it's relevant because that's the whole series. I don't know why I'm apologizing to this. Like, people are like, I can't believe you talk about the other things you've done.
No, no, you
Um,
should.
I apologized to Amy Vorpal during the interview for asking so many questions.
Did you? Did you really?
And I was like, what is this an interview? She's like, I know
Yeah,
why I'm here. I was like, yeah, no, you're right. I'm being
yeah,
like
yeah.
weirdly over British.
You're right.
Yeah, no, Colby said that he does a lot of English accents as well. So I think it's really funny that some of the
Okay.
defaults from across the pond is just like, I
Yeah.
just do that guy's voice.
Yeah, yeah. Just over there. Yeah.
But I tend to
That's
pick and
so funny.
choose. My go-tos are actually the easy ones that I have talked about in a short before, and the video that will go up as well. So it's just kind of like making your voice slightly higher is a really good one if I
Hmm.
like, or going slightly lower and talking like
Yeah.
that. Um,
Yeah. You don't need a lot of change. It's almost like entirely cadence and just pitch. And if you can
100%.
get those things away, you can make some really wacky characters.
Exactly. If you want to go all out and do like a Welsh accent and talk
Mm.
about it in a different way, then you can.
Yeah.
But you don't have to, and I think that's the key
Right.
thing, right? Is especially for
Yeah.
newer players, because
Oh.
for me, D&D is like the performance.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
adore the performance of it because I was a theatre kid.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
wanted to be a theatre kid. I was a working class theatre kid, which
Yeah.
means I didn't do it, but I would have liked to do.
Right.
Yeah, so for me, the
At
performance is
heart,
like the part.
theater kid.
Yeah, inside, I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
very annoying. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
It's so
yeah, so
funny.
the accents are a big part of the fun for me.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think I think that's definitely the case. Like when I played that, it's
Mm.
purely just making a character that people either go like, "Oh my god, I can't believe," you know what I mean, or like they were like, "That character's fun. I want to hang out with them."
Yeah.
Those are my two goals. I either want you to groan or I want you to be like, "That's a good guy. I want to hang out with them."
I think
Um,
eliciting responses from people is like the best part of it. We did a Dagger Harp run through of one of the betas, and I made
mhm.
one of the mushroom dudes, and he was a friendly. Oh no, I'm just a humble private investigator. Don't worry
Yeah.
about me. And they're like, oh, how do you fight? And I was like, oh, you see him pull these two daggers out from like part of his flesh, and they were
Uh-huh.
like, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
You've been so friendly this entire time. It's
Yeah.
like, no, you're right. That is terrifying. That's
Yeah.
a wonderful way of doing it.
I love that. That's such a good character,
It's
man.
great.
That's so good. Now I want to play D&D. We haven't played. We've had a couple weeks off,
Oh
so
no,
I know.
it
I'm getting the
like
itch back up.
itches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You're right.
Do you get to play much?
I used to play a good amount. I've started to be like in the recent year or so. I've been basically the full time DM,
Mm.
and I used to. I want to say for like I had one buddy who was the forever DM, and for 5 years I was just playing, and I love playing. Like I love being the character.
Mm.
but now I think as I've DM'd more and more, and we're in like a more like serious long term campaign, I think that's where I prefer to be by a long margin.
Yeah.
Just because you get to have all of like you get to do the one character that you were gonna do,
Yeah.
but then you could just do 10 more of them, and
Yeah.
then you're like, next week I get to try some more, you know. And I think what I really like is not the characters that do the worst are the ones that I plan, and then the ones that
Yes.
just happen to show up. Those are the characters that do the best, and that's when I have like the most fun. So I've enjoyed just kind of embracing, just being like, all right, who is this guy? And just really go, what's the craziest person I can think of
Yeah.
that makes sense in this situation, and here they are.
Very cool.
Yeah, oh yeah,
So you're doing like a full long campaign at the moment then?
yeah. We're
How
really
do you go
locked in.
about planning something like that?
So I'm lazy, and I usually take like a module or something,
Mhm.
and I use that as the foundation, and I start reading the book, and I go, oh, I don't like any of this. So I use like all of the base lore that exists. So
Yeah.
I have like a lot of like handouts or like locations, and then I change basically all the characters, the motivation, the plot. Like so,
Right.
it's basically like I don't know. It's like I shouldn't even have used it in the first place, but it's like it's tricking myself into getting into working on it because I'm like, oh,
Yes.
what a slog. And then it helps. Like we're doing a dragon heist or water deep dragon heist right
Right.
now, but we've done very little of what's in the book. All that exists is that like we now know that water deep exists,
Right.
and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Like everything else has changed. So when I go about planning that, I have the gist of where the campaign will end. And then each time I kind of see one of their quests or something, I'm like, no. So I swap it to what I think my characters would
Yeah.
like better. And then I always try to add like, we're not a very fighting centric group.
Okay.
A lot of it is role playing. We'll go maybe like 5 sessions and not have a combat, because we'll throw in like a lot of other, like, I think puzzles
Mm.
our group is really into, and a lot of like mysteries and like just talking through like diplomatic
Yeah.
situations. Um, so yeah, I think it's just taking something that exists, extrapolating it, and then
Yeah.
going destroying it to the ground, rebuilding it differently that works for us, and then trying to add like elements that make it so it's not just one tone. Like so many of the counters in the books are like, you fight this thing. It's like, okay, but I've done that 20 times. So like
Yes.
there also has to be a ticking time bomb that they have to like
Yeah.
finish beforehand or try and deal with, while also this like puzzle is limiting them from getting. So
Yeah.
like I try to just layer things. And
Okay.
is that are you similar in that? How do you make a long campaign?
I tend to do like 10-session campaigns. I
Oh
don't
wow,
do long
okay.
campaigns. It's a thing where my brain's just like, you can't drag this on for 2 years. So I do shorter campaigns. But
That's probably the way to go.
the main DM of our little group is, so I joined them back in November last
Mhm.
year. So I've not been with them that long. But again, we've been playing 2 times a week. So like we've played
Sure.
a lot of D&D together.
Yeah.
We're coming up to the 2.5 year mark of this specific campaign. So we're level 15.
Oh, wow,
Um,
okay, wow.
which
You
is
guys are
which
up
is
there.
he described it really well. Level 15, I think, past level 13, and is very similar to level 1 in that the combat encounters could end instantly either
Mhm.
way, and it's
Yeah,
very hard to know which way it's gonna go
right. Oh, yeah.
because everything could just one shot.
Well, you have no play tests, right?
Yeah,
Like, you just create a monster, and you're like, "I hope this works. I hope
exactly.
this doesn't just destroy things?"
Yeah, and you're like staring at Tarask's stat bot, like, oh, if I make it just slightly weaker, is that fair, or is that not fair, or is that too
Yeah.
fair? Like,
Yeah. That's
what
great. I've never
balances?
played a campaign at past level 10. Like, we usually my favorite again, this is me saying I've gone further and further away. My favorite D&D is literally like level 1, 2, and 3. Like when
Right?
it's you have very little things, and maybe it's the old school of like the magic items are kind of what levels you up
Yeah.
instead of like your character gets something new. And so yeah, ours very low key. 15 has got to be. I couldn't imagine trying to balance that. That has to be devastating.
we're we're quite literally coming into encounters with gods and stuff, like not necessarily
Yeah.
fighting them, but like there was a puzzle we did a while ago where we had to try and get this giant log from 2 fey deities as
Yeah.
part of a test because one of us has been chosen as the spirit of the summer,
Yeah.
and then they made a lute out of the wood itself and a hair from Titania,
Yeah.
and he was like, oh, this is a special loot for you that does these special things. Honestly, the DM
That's
is like mind-blowingly good. It's
yeah.
wild, and I'm just like, my campaigns are like, you just a little guy, You're doing little guy things,
yeah,
but evil sometimes.
yeah. Right.
I don't. It's
It always goes that
unfathomable.
way.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
always a little. That's
Some
great.
people are magic.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
I just love D&D, man.
Yeah.
It's a
Oh boy,
problem.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I mean, and that's that's why I made the channel, right? Like, it's just like, how could I play more D&D? Like, how can I just think about it
How can
more
I
without
justify
actually,
this?
yeah, without actually playing more D&D.
Yes, I think
You
it's a
know?
really interesting observation. Actually, you saying that like a lot of people, obviously there are actual plays that people watch, but I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are kind of looking for just like a brief hit of that feeling like you're playing D&D.
Right.
So comedy works well. It makes me wonder if there's like D&D. Oh, there probably is like D&D ASMR where people are like roll a
Oh,
check
sure.
and then just rolling a dice, and people are like, "Yeah, oh, you succeeded."
Sounds like more than ASMR, but I like that.
Look,
I think we
man,
got a new channel plan, you know.
I'm not doing that channel.
Yeah. Um, yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, because I feel like you get like obviously it's a big group, but it's a subgroups. Like you have the DMs who
Mm,
are those are the ones that are actually watching the advice videos, in
yeah,
my opinion, or someone who's like really new. And then to be fair, one day it's going to be the DM. Like you know the person in your group is like, yeah, they're into this enough. They're
yeah,
watching videos on the side. They're going to start DMing. But the mass population of people playing D&D, right? There's one or two DMs and then like 4 or 5 players.
100%.
Yeah, no, the ratio is so skewed to just the player side where and they're not interested in being like what's the best way to travel in D&D?
Yeah,
And they can be. Like there's obviously people who do, but they're just like I'm just going to show up to my session. I didn't even make a character. Could you actually help me make it? Like
yeah,
those are a lot of the people that I play with. And you're like, "Oh yeah." So you're just like this is just a low key and what you want is just the haha.
yeah.
Remember how we laughed at D&D. So yeah, cuz like the advice videos that's a subgroup of just the piece and the people who are watching live play that's also a subgroup of people who like want to commit to that. It's a good second screen kind of,
Yeah.
video to throw on,
I
but
work while watching actual plays, like
exactly.
100%. And
Yeah.
that's no shade against the actual plays because they're really entertaining. But like,
Right.
I have so much stuff to do all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's like they're engaging enough to want to have them on the
yeah,
side, but they're not fully engaging that if I just sat there and like it is boring to be like, which dice do I roll again?
yeah,
Like, and then we're going through and it's you sit through it in person because that's where it's fun. You're a part of
because
it.
you're
But
in it, right?
yeah, so
Yeah,
it's fine if it's just like a bag, like someone's looking for their dice, you're like playing a game or something.
yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
No, it's interesting. Would you ever want to do an actual play?
I think I would be a part of one. I don't know if I would ever want to make playing with my friends an actual play. I think I like having that completely separate and just like a sacred. Because the other thing is, I mean, we start at 7:30. We don't play till like 9:30, and then like we played, like then we play till like 1. But there's a lot of in between, just
Yeah,
completely different conversations. So, no, I don't think I would ever want to turn. But if like at some point I would be down to like new experiences. It's always
mm,
fun to play with new people. But yeah, I think I would want to keep my like certain friend group completely fine. And it's also one of those things. I think there's plenty of them already out there that
mm,
I don't know how ours stands out separate of like someone else's
yeah,
because it's not like there's a limit on time. Like
yes.
I think I've watched so much Critical Role. I think I've watched a ton. I'm on episode like 19 of season 2, and I started on season 2. So I'm like, I've watched 19 hours, like 19, Lord of the Rings length
Yeah,
movies. And I'm
yeah.
like, I have so much time in this. Like, I barely scratched the surface and
You
I can't
are
keep up.
a new, like a tadpole in the pond that
Yeah.
is Critical Role. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I've spent so much, I've watched hours. How much more? Like, I'm almost at my 10,000 hour mark to be a master of Role watching. And
I have watched this so well.
yeah, yeah. Right.
No,
So,
yeah, 100%.
so yeah, I don't know. Again, but there's very talented people. Obviously, people are doing it, and it's good out there. So I think I'll probably stay away from it because there's plenty of other people doing it that I love watching, and I can just enjoy and not have to participate.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
How do you find? We sort of touched on it a little bit, but like, how do you find the D&D community at large?
It's interesting because we talked about this a little bit
Mm,
before we got on camera, but like I think in general, I think they're very kind, intelligent, like emotionally intelligent people. Um, and then I think there's like a subgroup of people who are the exact opposite. Like you can look at your comments and there's like so many good comments, and
yeah,
then there's someone who's just like hyper focused on one thing
yeah,
so I think I do wonder if those people actually play games. Like, I wonder if those
Right.
people are like D&D viewers, not D&D players. Like, they've watched all the Critical Role.
Yeah.
They've so I think the general community is super nice. I think they're a very creative group of people. I found like a ton of people are musicians, like
Mm.
which is a weird like overlap. I think there's just a lot of like balance between these things, and I love the D&D audience because I had a somewhat I did way early on. This was when I was younger. I did like uh, tutorials for a game called Age of Empires,
Yeah.
right? Age of Empires 2, way back when,
Oh,
because I
great
was
game.
really into it. Yeah, yeah, it's great, right? But the audience for that is rough. Okay, like it's every comment is like it's like I spent forever just making this thing. You
Yeah.
can use it or not. It's just like a build tutorial, right?
Yeah.
And they're like you just get like I would say 50% negative comments. I got a bunch of likes, but you're like the people who decide to be vocal are just like,
Yeah.
this isn't not good enough. I don't like it this way. How do you do it? You're like, listen, man, I gave you the free thing. This is the best I could
Bro,
do.
I'm just leave me alone.
Yeah, yeah. And so there's a lot of like I would say not as emotionally intelligent
Mm.
people, specifically for the videos I was getting. Obviously, I won't speak to the entirety of it, but for D&D, I think there's a lot of people like we're playing it because we want to be creative
Mm.
and engage in a way, and to do that effectively, I think you have to be kind of like you locked in with the people around you. You know, it's improv in a way where you
Mm.
guys are all kind of have to agree on a reality. You
Yeah.
know, so I love the D&D audience. So I've got to talk to some people in real life, which is like a crazy experience where someone's like, "Hey, I've seen your stuff," and I'm like, "Oh, crazy!" And then we talk for like 30 minutes, and they
Yeah.
were like super nice, and I've enjoyed it every single time. So I feel like this is one of the best audiences, probably like across the board. I don't know. I don't know. How do you feel the same way? Do you?
I sort of only really dipping my toe into it. So I think like on the online side of things, I've mostly had really positive comments on like some of the shorts I've done. They generally
Mhm.
do all right. Um,
Yeah,
like for my level, which is fine. I've
yeah.
had some really nice comments. Like I've had people asking me questions about, oh, how would you RP this specific thing that's
Hmm.
happening in my campaign? And I'm like, this is entirely what I want to talk about. This is
Yeah,
how I would do this thing. Because
yeah, yeah.
like, yes, come to me, bring me your weird D&D questions about how you would react to something in RP, and my inner theater kid will answer you.
Right,
And the writer in me will make sure it's actually in any way understandable.
right, right.
um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so I mean, I've talked to a bunch of D&D creators at this point, and like everyone's been lovely.
Yeah,
So
it seems like the larger community,
mm,
all the people I've talked to, like on the back end of things, have all been super kind and nice
mm,
and inclusive, and um, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's as best as you can get. You
yeah,
know, like it's hard to beat.
100%. Do you have any thoughts on the new D&D books? You kind of, I feel like this is gonna be a really interesting answer because you've already said that you're like almost moving away from D&D despite still playing D&D. So
Okay, D&D, what is it? 2024 Player's
yeah,
Handbook. Hot take is I don't care, and I think that if you are new to the game, you should pick it up. I
mm,
think if you want something new, you should pick it up.
yeah,
Otherwise, I think it's just minor tweaks that don't impact the game, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Like, yeah, it's going to change combat. I think all the things on there are improvements. I think
mm,
everything they did was like a lateral move, like it's fine, whatever, it's just different, or it's like, they figured out here's a problem, we should fix it.
yeah,
Like it's an updated version. They, the same way you would get from like a video game, like
yeah,
a balancing patch is kind of what it feels like.
mm,
And but beyond that, I was trying to watch some of the videos of them like talking about what's coming out, what's
yeah,
new, and I just couldn't get myself to care. And I know that sounds terrible as someone who like makes D&D videos and it's like this is supposed to be like the new thing that's going to make a lot of content, but it's
mm,
just like I think it's going to be the same. I think when I go and play, that's not going to change whether at fifth level I get this versus that.
yeah,
So for a lot of people, I understand why that is exciting. It's just personally to me not exciting. So if any of my players want to make a
mm,
2024 character, awesome, great, go for it. I think that's going to be completely reasonable. The thing is, if I want to go through and read like the whole new like book to kind of
yeah,
make sure I'm educated on it, I would want to probably do a different system. And that's where it becomes like this balance of I would like to try, like DC 20,
yeah,
for example, from Dungeon Coach. Like I would like to go if I want to do something new, I'd like to do something really new versus
yeah,
like so again, I think it's good. I think it's good that they did it. I think if you are buying something you don't have anything, get this. You shouldn't go back to the 5e one. You should get this. They're going to be same. They're completely compatible in
Yeah.
like how you play your game. And I'm already changing so many numbers and things like for the monster manual, for everything, that it doesn't really impact how I live my life. It's just more information to like parse through. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun for like the content creators who make crazy builds and people who are like into min-maxing and like making like an awesome character. You're gonna have more fun to do that. Otherwise, I don't know, man. The theater kid element of it is still gonna be we're playing make believe at the table, and
that's
I'm
the same with every system. It doesn't matter what system you're playing. If your main focus is I'm gonna inhabit the body of an Aarakocra or like an eagle person, it doesn't matter what system you're playing at that point, right?
Yeah, because also the other thing is like when someone goes like, I want to play this, do I have to have the stats be this way? I'm like, no. Who cares? We're playing make believe. If you want to play something, just ask me, and we'll make sure it's like I want balance. Like I don't want you to have something broken.
Yeah.
And I think that's also like, specific to the people I'm playing with. In the 5e version, right, the original, there's plenty of things you could do to like practically destroy a character. Like D&D Shorts does it. He shows you how to do it.
Yes.
No one at our table, they know it's an option. No one wants to do it.
Yeah.
And so like they're like, yeah, why would I want to have something like I want the story element of this being a conflict and being difficult. So like I think it just turns into something for my specific table is irrelevant. But again, I'm not trying to poo-poo on what other people think is exciting, So if they like it, I hope they get as much fun, and I'm sure it'll just slowly integrate into my D&D playing as time goes on, and people are like, oh, I saw this, could I try? And it's like, yeah. And then that'll just keep on happening, and then they'll just be on top of each other.
Assimilate it all eventually.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have any specific questions left. So is there anything else that you want to talk about?
No, man, I appreciate you having me on. In general, I'm excited that the D&D community, I guess this is the last thing for the player handbook. I'm excited the D&D community is getting some version of an update. And I'm excited to see more than anything that the third-party creators are going to be able to keep on expanding and going out. And that's where I think like a lot of the really cool stuff. If you want something that's like going to be specific and like awesome, the people who are on the third party, I think that's where the real secret 100%.
Is. The Grim Hollow, one of my players is playing the Grim Hollow Blade Breaker fighter class.
Yeah.
That stuff's nutty. It's incredible.
Yeah.
They get different stances, and they've got whole other things. He can attack from 10 feet away, and he can spend a mastery point to create a wall of blades. It's like, that's incredibly cool.
Right.
The Humblewood books had like raccoon people and a bunch of cool stuff. Yeah, no, 100%. I love the third party stuff so much.
Yeah, and it's so good. And when people like, I get a lot of comments. They're like, "Well, you forgot to include." It's like, yeah, I know. I know. I'm just doing base book, like the memes about the base book, because there is, I mean, countless subclasses.
Yeah,
and it's forever. So like, yeah, and they're awesome. So yeah, I think we weren't missing choice, and now we just have even more choice.
Yeah,
which is great.
More choices is always good.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, I got nothing else. I appreciate you having me on. Seriously, thank you so much.
No, it's a pleasure. Is there anything you want to plug? Obviously, I'll link to your channel. Is there anything upcoming that you're doing?
Go check out No Dice. I'm going to be doing some more live streams. So if you're into live streams, come check out the YouTube channel. I think that's been a lot of fun being able to talk to the community and kind of all of us hang out and talk about D&D. And like, I'm going to do a couple like DM advice things, new player advice things. So we have stuff that people can kind of give their hot takes and see how it plays out. But yeah, just check out No Dice D&D and wherever, and it's no big deal. We're just gonna have fun.
Cool. Yeah. We're just gonna wave at the camera now, and then I'll cut some of it out, and that's that. So,
right. Yeah. I love that.
Thank you so much.
Awkward wave or
as awkward as you want it to be. Yeah. Go for it.
Okay. Good.
Live your dream.
Okay.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.